And good evening, and I'd like to welcome you to yet another edition of County Fair, Waycross Community Media's government access program, allowing you inside the county in which you live. Of course, that is Hamilton County, and I'm very fortunate to have with me County Commissioner Chris Monzel. Chris, glad you could join us.
Well, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Love having you as always. Of course, 2017 is never say a rough start, but it's always one of those welcome to the new year.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're experiencing some new things in the county. One being, you're now in the minority when it comes to the big three downtown. How does that shape up when looking at the commission? I mean, because you're all playing in the same ballpark.
True, and by state law, we're all the same power.
Absolutely.
So there's not one commissioner has more power than the other, but we're all three of the same level in that regard. So it's definitely different in the sense of not being in charge of the agendas and leading the meetings. You know, that's something I've been involved with for the last 6 years.
Exactly.
So, but I am familiar about being in a minority when I was on Cincinnati City Council for almost 10 years. So I was on the minority there for 10 years, and being in a majority for the last 6 was definitely a change, a nicer change. But, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, continuing my role as county commissioner here in this new role where I am in the minority on the board.
And, of course, gaining a new member. We saw Denise Driehaus take over for the vacant seat at that point, and here we are today.
Yes.
Good things are coming to the county, I hope, and that's what we're here really to discuss.
Yes.
Let's just dive right in, as we say. Looking ahead, what is 2017 for the county itself?
Well, there's a couple of things that we're going through right now, the first of which is our budget.
Absolutely.
So at the end of last year, by law, we have to pass a general fund budget by the end of the year that is balanced, structurally balanced. And unlike federal government, where they get away with not able to do that and printing money whenever they can, we cannot do that here in Hamilton County.
Still haven't gotten that power yet.
No, we don't need it. we need to stay within our budget, and by law, we have to have a balanced budget by the end of the year. And so at the December timeframe, we are doing budget hearings and working through the process. And with the new board dynamic happening with the switch, it was determined at that time to do a continuation budget, which would just be a first quarter budget for 2017. And at that time, then, the new board majority can come in and start to do a budget process for the remainder of 2017. So that was what was agreed upon at the end of December of last year. And so we're in that process right now. We are doing public hearings. We're going through what the rest of this year's budget will look like, and we have to pass that by March 31st of 2017, so just in a couple weeks.
And, you know, we were talking off camera, you know, with the new administration coming in, it's also changed not only in your realm, but also federally.
Correct.
You know, things are probably going to make some changes. How have you, as a commissioner, adjusted to this new change in power as well?
Well, that's something that we're, again, every week, every day, we're learning something new. It is a new administration in Washington, D.C., and some of the things that are coming out could potentially impact us from a budget standpoint as well as regulation standpoint. I know that's something that the Trump administration is really looking into, is cutting regulations and trying to reduce the size of the federal government in regards to just the number of folks in different departments, as well as the regulations that are being applied, you know, throughout industries as well as, you know, other government agencies.
Do you feel that as local government that is a help or a hindrance?
Well, you know, honestly, it just depends on what it is. So we're just learning this. Things are coming rolling out. So I think some could be a positive in regards to our work in regards to with the Metropolitan Sewer District and the work with the Environmental Protection Agency, that with the new administration coming in, will they change some of those regulations and give relief, you know, to local communities that are so burdened by the sewer system upgrades that we have to do. I mean, here in Hamilton County, we're talking about $3.2 billion project. So if there's any way we could get relief, that would be a very positive thing. So again, it kind of depends on what it is. Some negative impacts could be in regards to some federal funding for community development block grants that rely on, you know, some of the programming here in Hamilton County. If we don't get that funding, we'll have to cut those programs. So those are kind of the good and the bad. So it just kind of depends on how it rolls out.
And again, looking at the way that the administration is somewhat leading us to believe at some point that the local government is going to be gaining that control again. And is that something that we're really ready for? I mean, the state of Ohio has been kind of gearing that way. However, is that something we're ready for?
I think so. Devolution is kind of the word where the power flows from the federal government to state down to local. That's something that's been going on for several decades now.
Absolutely.
So it's something that I think we're very prepared for. And honestly, I always believe the best form of government is the one that's closest to the people. I mean, because they're the ones that are actually feeling it every day. That's why being in local government, I think it's kind of neat because you actually see what your tax dollars are going to.
Correct.
From your local taxes going to filling potholes, picking up garbage, to your police and fire services. I mean, those things you see. In D.C., you don't feel that too much of what's happening up there. So if they can put that money back into the local governments, I think that's a good thing. And for us to be able to make those decisions on how to spend that money, because I think that's closer to the people.
Right. And hopefully, as you're saying, it's that relief. And that's
Right.
something that we're looking for all the time.
Yes.
But especially in a few of the areas that, again, we're going to be talking about. You've already mentioned one of them is MSD, which
Right.
seems to be a hot topic that we continually discuss. Hopefully
is.
we'll be making that not necessarily go away, but making that a little more of a priority.
Yes.
One of the things that I'm noticing, and we have it here, is transportation. A lot
Yes.
of infrastructure. That's a big word in 2017 in
It
a
is.
lot of realms.
It is.
And it is going to hit the county as well.
Correct. And with the Trump administration, again, looking to invest more into infrastructure projects, that could be a very positive thing for Hamilton County.
Absolutely.
Especially with all the work that you see that we need to do, and transportation-wise, from our I-75 highway, I-71, and 275, there's a lot of work that's being done here already.
Correct.
One big project, though, that will impact the county is the Western Hills Viaduct.
And that was big news as well.
Right. So that bridge was built when they built Union Terminal. And it actually was funded by the railroads. So the private railroad companies actually put money from when they were building Union Terminal into helping build that bridge. And so back then it was, mere $6 million or something like that, right? Today, to replace it, it's going to be over $310 million just to replace the bridge. Now, if you tie into a new interchange within I-75, that could go up probably another $70, $80 million. So you're still talking well into the $390 million total for this project.
Especially if they're looking to change flow, or
Correct.
because as you know, and you've seen, different things will happen. It probably will not be the same means in which you're getting on or getting off.
Correct.
Again, looking for safety means. You're, again, probably looking for that increase, unfortunately, unless there's some magical pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Right, which doesn't always happen.
Right.
So right now we've got a $10 million grant to start planning and designing for the new bridge, which is good, but it's a drop in the bucket compared to the over $300 million left that we have to come up with to do a full replacement.
Especially since you're looking at the improvements that we've seen on 75 already, which have made a dramatic change, and you're also seeing those changes happen on 71.
Yes.
Are we going to see continued improvements on 71, especially going in towards the city?
I think once the Martin Luther King interchange has been opened up, I think, and then the work that's being done in the Lido Tunnel area, I think those are going to be the last in that area for now, at least that I'm aware of.
Sure.
But those are two big projects that I think will be very helpful, especially with the Martin Luther King interchange and opening up development in the uptown area. For the UC campus, by the University Hospital, Children's Hospital. I think that's a great economic development opportunity for the city of Cincinnati, which will also help Hamilton County.
Absolutely. Have you seen a major uptick when it comes to, now that you've made many of these road improvements, development continuing? Obviously, we're going to be seeing, we had Representative Deaver on here about a month ago, and he was discussing the further north that we come, closer to our realm up here, with the GE expansion and on the sides there. That's going to be some heavy development, but are you seeing it, that what we've already experienced from the, I guess you would say probably from St. Bernard in that area, are we seeing development continue there, or are we expecting any?
I think we're expecting it. I think right now, from just a pure transportation standpoint, it was so necessary to fix I-75. I drive it quite a bit, going up and down it from work to the county. It's something that I experience on a daily basis, and it is at times, just overwhelming with the amount of traffic that can be there. So I think you're going to see a massive improvement in that regards, which I think will then lend itself to more economic development opportunities. which will be, I think, beneficial not only from a standpoint of the county, but also those local municipalities that are involved with it. The city of Cincinnati definitely will be seeing that over on the Martin Luther King interchange, but then I think you'll also see it with some of the smaller municipalities on the I-75 work. Evendale is being one that I think there's going to be some opportunities once that's completed.
I surely hope so.
Yes.
Now, of course, the one that we haven't touched upon is obviously the Brent Spence Bridge.
Correct.
Is that something that maybe of discussion continuing in 2017, especially with the new administration, as well as opening talks any other way we can?
Yeah, I think it's something that definitely is on a list that is in Washington, D.C. Again, from a standpoint, the bridges are not owned by the state of Ohio or Hamilton County or the city of Cincinnati. The Ohio River is technically owned by Kentucky, which a lot of people don't know, but they own all the bridges that cross from Kentucky into Ohio. And so we have to work with them to be able to come up with a financing method on it. And currently right now, we haven't come to an agreement on that model. But I think it's important. I think everybody realizes it, and we're just trying to come up with a way. And I think with the new Trump administration in Washington, D.C., with the infrastructure focus, that perhaps maybe we can get some financing that will be beneficial in order to replace the Brent Spence Bridge.
It's interesting that you say that, considering the amount of money they put into down in the Louisville area with the interchanges going over to Indiana. I mean, if you're going through that way, I just recently did coming back from Kansas City. It's like, what?
Now, I believe those are toll bridges, though.
Correct.
So, and that's the big, that is
contention.
contentious. And the Northern Kentucky contingency does not want to have tolls. I am not supportive of a toll mechanism. I think that there's other ways that we can be able to fund it. One of which is, looking at our federal budget and being able to come up with more money for those type of projects. So we tend to be able to build bridges across the world pretty frequently. Why can't we turn that focus and spend some of that money here at home?
And it's interesting to talk because obviously anyone that comes and sits at the table here is always a very big proponent of having these changes happen. And, not to say that it's the other side of the bridge that's making the difficulty. I think they both want it. It's just finding that common handshake to make it work properly.
Right. And I think with the new administration in Washington, D.C., there's probably more optimism now that we might be able to pull this off. So we'll see here.
We'll see. I mean, again, it's early 2017. We haven't made it to the 100 days yet. Let's see what happens. And obviously, we have 4 years to hope that'll happen.
Right.
Sooner better than later.
Right, I know, absolutely. And a lot of folks don't realize, like with the Western Hills Viaduct, that's a bridge that's going to take a decade or more to replace.
I was just going to say, how
Brent
long
Spence Bridge will be the same thing. So you're talking, even if we did get something agreed upon today, you're talking in the 2020s at the earliest that you might be able to see something actually being built.
I mean, even if you look at the improvements that we made on 75, how long that took. I mean, we are all thankful for the changes that have happened, that is for sure. But obviously, as they say, what is it? A small inconvenience for long-time relief.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly. So it's the government moves at a glacial pace.
Sure.
Unfortunately, there's very good reasons for it, but at the same time, it's frustrating, and it takes a long time for some of these big projects to be completed.
75, 71 being the major interchanges here in the area. What are other infrastructures projects that we may be looking towards in 2017?
So one big one for the county is the new crime lab that we're looking to build for the coroner's office. The current building that we have down in the Clifton area is well outdated, as well as has a lot of mechanical problems from boilers and chillers going out, and that's really not something that you want to be dealing with in a morgue. So definitely a building that's in need of an upgrade, as well as from a space limitation aspect of it. We got folks doing work in hallways because there's just been such an increase in that DNA science, in the drug analysis of what's happening in criminal cases, and it's the crime lab is such a key component to fighting crime in our community from a public safety standpoint. The prosecutor's office utilizes this information, this analysis, to get criminals off the street. So I think it's something very important that we need to invest in, and that's what we're going to be doing. And last year we got 29 plus sites that have asked for to be looked at for a location of the new crime lab, and we down selected that to one area, and that's Blue Ash.
Okay.
So there's a site in Blue Ash that we're looking at and doing further studies on, and we've brought a designer on now. We've got them under contract to start looking at plans so that we can hopefully break ground on that facility by the end of this year, maybe beginning of next year. And it's about $40 million is the cost for the new crime lab.
Of course, when you hear that much money, you obviously think that's a very big price tag. However, with the amount of technology that's going to be going into it, as well as you're saying, those necessities, heat, cooling, especially if you're saying in a morgue, you want to keep it cool.
Right. No, absolutely. And you want to make sure that the evidence that is there is protected.
Correct.
So there's no tampering or no issues with it, so that when they do go to court, the evidence can't be thrown out. And so that's why it's very important to have a good facility.
It's interesting that we're going up to the northern suburbs for this new area. What was the selection process to find this new area for the facility?
So we wanted something that was really centrally located, that could get from all parts of the county, so something that was close by to interstate highways. We wanted something that had enough land space so that potentially it could be expandable, so that we don't have to look at finding a new site 20 years from now or 30 years from now. So there was definitely site determinations on size as well as location. And so that's what we went through with our administration, and then the coroner's office also did a similar one. And the two rankings came out identical, so which worked out great. So from that standpoint, we have a position now that's close between 71 and 75, as well as 275 to north and cross county to the south. So it's a very centrally located position that will be able to get accessed and big enough that we can be able to expand on it.
Obviously, we have, I wouldn't call it competition, but it could be considered competition with other areas, Columbus, Cleveland, things like that. What's going to make our crime lab the place? I mean, obviously, we're going to take pride in it because it is in our county. But is there something that may make this a little bit more appealing so that others can use it?
Well, I think from a standpoint of just bringing in state-of-the-art equipment and technology to be able to do virtual autopsies, so that we could help out other counties across the United States and bring in more revenue that way. And then also in regards to analyzing new drugs. I mean, especially with the heroin epidemic that's hitting us so hard. There's stuff that needs to be analyzed. So if we have the latest and greatest technology that we can go in and get that information quicker, that could be getting more information out there to save lives. So those are the type of things I think will make our crime lab stand out.
Excellent. Again, you are watching County Fair here on Waycross Community Media. I'm speaking with Commissioner Monzel in regards to the state of the county, not necessarily the address, but at least what's going on here in 2017. We just touched the tip of the iceberg earlier about the MSD. It's still a hot contention item. Where are we where it comes to this fine pile of poo, shall we say? We bring it up. Everyone says, we talk about two things. We talk about money and the S word. And
yes.
Sewer.
Yeah.
Sewer.
Unfortunately, in Hamilton County now, our water bills are more of a sewer bill. Pretty much about 2/3 of your water bill is going to sewers if you're within a metropolitan sewer district, which is a majority of Hamilton County. There are a few areas that are not in the sewer system, but this is something that we're under a consent decree from the Environmental Protection Agency. As I said earlier, the EPA has come in and we have to upgrade our system to prevent sewage going into people's basements and people's backyards. Of course, nobody wants that. And we have a very old system here. I mean, I think we still have brick sewers in places in the city of Cincinnati over 100 years old. So with that, there's a cost to upgrade and fix and to get rid of these combined sewer overflows where you had sanitary sewers coming in with storm sewers. And with these big storms that we're blessed with and our geography of the hillsides, you get a lot of water accumulating, and thus these combined sewer overflows back up and cause a lot of damage in people's homes and in their backyards and other parts of the community. So we have to fix that.
Yes.
We understand that. The EPA has come in and says that's a $3.2 billion fix based on their estimations. They've given us a list of projects that we have to go work, broken into 2 phases. Phase 1 goes till next year, and then Phase 2 after that has no end date. That's good and bad.
True.
Good that we can kind of maybe parse out the projects to kind of reduce the amount of money that's needed by the ratepayers.
So that helps us out in that regard.
But bad because there's no end date.
Right.
And therefore, when will you finish? And so that's something that we're trying to work with, and hopefully with the new EPA administration in Washington, D.C., we can get relief on that and be able to get relief on the ratepayers. Because those are the folks, when you pay your water bill, your sewer bill, you're paying for all this work. And that's why you've seen tremendous increases in your rates over the last couple decades. And it's a lot. It's a burden. It is a burden on families and businesses. It's something that I always worry about. You know, we get letters all the time that people can't afford their water bills because of this. So we've kicked off this rate affordability task force for the Metropolitan Sewer District to kind of look at a couple ways that we can try to help ratepayers afford, their bills. Right. And so this group of citizens came in, volunteered with some local businesses, came up with several different recommendations, a couple of which, one is we have a quarterly billing system right now. And so folks who are on more limited income, that's a little bit tougher to pay a big bill every 3 months. And so we've asked to go to a monthly system so that can break it down and make it a little bit more budget easier for folks.
It's easier to look at budgetarily going,
right.
I need this for this month, this, as opposed to for those who may not be budgetarily savvy, forgetting about it and go, oh my goodness, it's my quarterly bill coming up, which could be happening. Going to a monthly billing cycle can help alleviate that.
Right, absolutely. And that was one of the suggestions that came up. So we're working with Cincinnati Waterworks. They're the ones that do the billing for MSD. And so we're trying to get that instituted as quickly as possible, but it could be later 2017 or maybe early 2018 by the time they get it done. So that's one of the items that was brought up. Another one was in regards to taking out these volumetric assumptions, in the fixed rates for MSD. So that's something that from an equity issue of fairness of, how do you adjust the rates based on these assumptions while they're not trying to find out the actual usage and charge them for that. And then third one is looking at multi-family bills and being able to put it on the actual size of the meter instead of the number of units in that multifamily housing building. So therefore, again, makes it a little bit more fair. Instead of just, you have 10 units, you got paid 10. Instead, look at the usage and the meter size that's being in those buildings and pay that. So again, that's trying to help out those families that are in those buildings as well as the owners of them and being a more fair rate in regards to their sewer bill.
Of the three new recommendations, do you not find that the third one is probably the most difficult to assess?
Well, right now we're trying to work through all of them, and I think there's a few others too that are just as difficult. But yeah, it's from a standpoint of going in. But I think they have the meter on there and they can read it, so I think they're going to be able to do that. It's now going back into the billing and aspect of how do you break that out, and so that's something that could bring some difficulties to it. And that's again working with Waterworks and their billing system to be able to go in and do these changes, and that's why it's might not happen this year, but maybe early next year.
Being a force to come together, which is always a great thing to see that people are coming together for a common goal, are you finding that there's a little bit of resistance from I don't want to call it the opposition, but from MSD themselves going, that's not something we're used to doing. Resistance to change, I guess, is what I'm looking at.
In some ways, yes. I mean, that's just typical of an organization.
Sure.
But I believe they're on board with most of the recommendations we want. It's just a matter of trying to get it done as quickly as possible, and that's where bureaucracy comes into place. MSD is a massive bureaucracy, a large organization. So is the city of Cincinnati, and so dealing with the billing changes and what we're trying to do isn't as quickly as we want it to. We were talking about all these changes last summer of 2016, and we're being told that maybe you might get it done in 2017, but it'll probably be 2018. To me, that's very frustrating. And is it that trying to get a bureaucracy like Metropolitan Sewer District to change is difficult, and that's showing in how long it's taking to get these changes implemented.
Yeah. As we've said, change does not happen overnight.
It doesn't.
It's a small and short thing, but it can happen if you kind of make it happen.
Right, exactly.
We've talked about some great changes and some new things are happening here in 2017. Just recently, the new Board of Elections office has opened.
Yes, that's very exciting. That's the first time in the history of Hamilton County that the Board of Elections is not downtown in the city of Cincinnati.
Interesting. Was there
200 years?
200 years. Was there a reason to move it outside of the county, or not outside of the county, out of the city?
Yeah, we have to keep
Sorry,
it in
we
county.
have to keep it in the
Got to
county.
keep it in the county.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Sometimes
yeah.
I speak too quickly.
No, that's all right. So there was a couple of things. One, we had the offices and the voting locations down on Broadway downtown, and then we had warehouse space out in Fairfax that we were leasing. So both sites we were leasing. The one downtown, the lease was coming up, and it was going to be more. And of course, they are wanting to use that for more development down by the casino, which we understood.
Absolutely.
So it gave us an opportunity to go and look for a new spot that would be centrally located, easy access, great parking, able to get folks there. And as you saw in previous elections, people standing outside, on the corner, around the corner, just long lines. Well, with this new location in Norwood on 4700 Smith Road, you got plenty of space. You got plenty of parking, free parking. You got ample room within the building itself for voting, so they can expand that to even get more polls in there. So if people want to go vote early, so there shouldn't be anybody standing outside in line. Secondly, we've got a space to put our warehouse function in. So now we've combined the warehouse with the office space into one location.
And again, saving you money because now you're no longer having to rent the other building.
Correct, but in regards, it's a little bit more expensive just
okay.
because it was a bigger spot
Sure.
and from a leasing standpoint. But we felt it was well worth it based on all the other amenities that we got out of it: the parking, the locations on 2 bus routes, so you can easily access from public transportation. It even has a drive-through drop-off box for absentee voting, so you don't even have to get out of your car to vote. You can just drive right through, like at the post office, just drop it into the slot, and you're done. So we're trying to, I believe in Hamilton County, we're making it as easy as possible to vote, and to make it, just something that's have no reason why you can't cast your ballot.
And what's nice is that it's now finished. We can be prepared for May.
Yes.
Obviously, we had the ribbon cutting. Everything went spectacularly. What can we expect? Obviously, do you feel? I guess this is a conjecture, I guess you can say. Do you think with all these new amenities we will see an increase or a betterment when it comes to our voting here in the county?
Well, I would hope so, but there's no guarantee. On the smaller elections, like the ones coming up this year for City Cincinnati Mayor and City Council, it won't be as big as voting for the presidential election last
Sure,
year.
absolutely.
I mean, it depends on the type of election, what gets to turn out to be bigger or smaller. And so I think as you see in these massive presidential election years, you definitely see a higher turnout. And I think going forward with this new facility, you should be able to get more votes coming in. And I don't see any reason why people can't say, hey, I can't get my vote in. We've made it so simple for folks and so easy and so accessible that I definitely think you probably will see an uptick.
It's interesting to say that it is in Norwood. We're seeing a lot of development happen in Norwood, especially down Montgomery Road and things of that nature. Were there other sites that you were thinking about prior?
So there were definitely sites that were being scouted and looked at. A couple years ago when we were looking at the Mercy Mount Airy facility, that was one location that was possibly going to be utilized. We decided to pass on doing that, and instead just kept looking around and found this one. And again, I think it's just a great location, and just I think it will be a big benefit for Hamilton County voters.
It'll be interesting to see because I'm so used to seeing it downtown.
I know.
It'll be somewhere new.
Yeah.
But it's great to see. Again, we're talking change and growth here in the county, which is absolutely what we need. Continuing on with new and better here in the county, something that is visible but not maybe in a structural standpoint, but the website. The county will be launching a new website this year.
Well, actually, it's launched.
It has
it's
launched.
Live. It is
Already
live. Yeah, www.hamiltoncountyohio.gov. So that is live, and I always compare it to my garage at home. Our old website was like my garage. It just had stuff everywhere,
It did, and
piled
you're
in there.
correct.
I mean, from the kids' bikes to baseball equipment to car stuff. It was just packed full. And so we actually hired a company called Civic Live that came in and has developed these websites for other government entities across the whole country. Mm-hmm. And they did a tremendous job of coming in and just really cleaning it up, making it really easier to use, user-friendly, connected it to some e-business, e-commerce type stuff so that we can utilize getting forms and things filled out from the website now. So it'll make it easier for folks to do business with the county.
Sure.
So to me, it's something that was well overdue, and it's a really great site.
And I have to agree with you. The old site was, I don't want to call it a hodgepodge, but you had everything accessible if you knew where to find it.
Correct.
Or if you knew where you were looking for. I think we are starting to see a lot of local governments and county governments starting to change their look at their websites and kind of getting that transparency far more out there. Hamilton County has been wonderful in the fact that everything was out there, everything was available. Again, you just had to know where to find it.
Right, absolutely. And now this is also mobile applicable, so you can get the website and be able to pull it up on your mobile phone and access it and be able to utilize it anywhere you want to go.
We going in that same idea. We're also working with planning and development as well.
Correct. Yeah.
Something that was started last year, I believe. We had an office starting out in
Coleraine Township. Correct.
But now things are developing, so to speak, again.
Right, absolutely. So again, trying to make it easier for businesses to be able to come to Hamilton County and develop and set up new operations. We're trying to come up with ways to cut that red tape.
Sure.
Make it simpler. And so we did have the satellite office out in Coleraine Township. We were looking to put one actually over in Anderson Township as well, because there's a lot of development occurring over there. From the standpoint of, instead of having folks go all the way downtown to get their plans reviewed and all the paperwork completed, they could do it out by where they're actually working. Well, with this new software that will be rolling out by the end of this year, Excella, and again, it'll be tied in with our website, that folks can actually put their plans, put their, drawings digitally online, so they don't even have to go downtown.
As I say, you're now eliminating another cost, which is gas.
Right, and parking.
And
hassle, right?
Exactly.
Traffic, and
time is money.
Exactly. So this is something I think is really going to be transformational for us as a county to come in and put this in place. We've worked with the development community on it, the home builders, all the various other developers and groups, to make sure that they were okay with the software they were using to kind of get a test, so to speak, to say, hey, will this be something that was beneficial? They all come back and said yes. They were actually willing to pay a fee in order to help pay for it.
Wow.
So that,
you don't hear that often.
You don't. But again, it's like, well, I'm willing to pay a small fee in order to get a huge convenience of having to print out my plans, bring them downtown, hassle with the parking, the traffic, going up and going through that whole process. If I can do it digitally, it's just going to save me a ton of time and money.
And this is going to make me sound old, but I mean, obviously, are we seeing that happening a lot, that we're going to be eliminating that downtime to go downtown or go to varying offices and have things just digitally transferred? Or do you still feel that there will be a need for one-on-one contact?
Well, I think it all depends on what the situation is.
Sure.
I think we're going to try and go more towards the digital. I mean, that's just where the world's going.
Sure.
From business, that you really don't have to be in an office anywhere now. You can work anywhere in the world with your Wi-Fi and your cell phone and your laptop or iPad and be able to get business done. And I think county government's going to be in that same area, in some areas, not all, right? I mean, I don't think some of the prosecution and job and family services and the court systems, you're still going to have to come in person. But I think from a standpoint of other functions, why can't we do this? Why can't we make it easier on a citizen to be able to access their county government wherever they are on their cell phone?
Sure. I mean, that's what we're tied to, so to speak. I mean, as you said, if you don't have your tablet or your pad with you, you have your phone with you, or you can go to your desktop. But being able to continue one job while getting another prepared is good business.
Right.
It does show that. With the Coleraine office now, and obviously the main office downtown, are you seeing that boom still continuing?
Knock on wood, yes. I mean,
Okay.
definitely we're seeing a lot of positive growth in Hamilton County, and that's where Anderson is starting to see some of that as well. So it's a very positive, as you brought up. Norwood has been seeing a lot of growth in that area, Bond Hill, and of course in the city of Cincinnati. So yes, it has been positive. Our permits have gone up. So it's a good thing, but again, you just never know with the economy where it's going to go. But
Sure.
right now, all signs are pointing positively.
I think, as you're saying, with development moving, I mean, will we see, with this going to that digital, will you think the county will grow a bit more?
Well,
than what we've got.
that's the hope. I mean, that's what we need to do is to make sure. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that Hamilton County is attractive, that it's safe and clean, that people want to live here, and that we're not putting overburdensome taxes and regulations on them. So that's why Metropolitan Sewer District is so important. That's why our property taxes are so important, and sales tax. So those are all things that kind of contribute to people making the decision whether or not they want to live in a certain area. And also transportation. They want to make sure that they can get around and be able to get places. So that's another important, consideration for families and businesses.
While we're talking, getting a quick nod on transportation, obviously we have the connector still available downtown. Make it sound like still. We've had it for just a year,
Yeah.
But we're still looking at seeing transportation continue with the, obviously the improvements that we're talking about here. Do you think that we're going to start seeing a little more public transportation hit the county wider? Obviously, we've centered at the city level. Do you think we'll expand a little bit more? Obviously, we have our busing system, but other things happening. Do you think you see
It's kind of curious. I think the whole transportation industry is in this disruptive mode, from your Uber to the Lyft, to the self-driving cars. I think when you look at transportation in the next 10 years, it's going to probably be radically different than what we see today. And what does that mean? I'm not sure yet. But it's pretty exciting when you look at it. And from a standpoint of, do you have self-automated buses now and smaller buses that are, driven from certain locations, and just the cost of operating them have just dropped dramatically.
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see. But I think that whole space of transportation is going to change dramatically in the next 10 years, and it'll affect public transportation. Ride sharing is a big thing that's coming up. How do you, if all of a sudden you have a car that's potentially in your community, or a set of cars that you can utilize that's self-driving, that you just plug in, and well, if it's only costing me $20 a month to do that compared to a $400 car payment and insurance, I don't have, all those things change that economic equation for a person or a family to say, well, it would be cheaper just to own one car, and then we can utilize this ride-sharing capability. That's the stuff that's coming out in the horizon, and how that affects public transportation is going to be interesting to see. I don't have the answers yet, but
No.
It's going to be changing, though. That's all I can tell.
I do know that the state is looking at things like that. I mean, we did have Senator Terhar here saying, that's probably one of the next big industries we want to see coming to our area, and that's going to affect us in some form or fashion.
No, absolutely.
Before we know it.
Right. It's going to be pretty interesting.
You are watching County Fair here on Waycross Community Media. I'm with Commissioner Monzel, speaking everything county-wide. Jobs and Family Services, obviously a contention here. Everything changes with JFS. What are you seeing in 2017? Obviously, some changes are going to happen.
Well, absolutely. We just had the Children's Services property tax levy that was just approved last year by the voters, so that came through. One of the changes that we came out of that process was try to provide more transparency to citizens on what is happening at Job and Family Services, specifically the number of cases that are coming in, how many children are in custody, how many folks are, waiting for their assistance, all those type of data to be able to at least access. So we updated another website, the Job and Family Services website. We updated that to put those reports on there monthly, so that folks can see just, what is happening at Job and Family Services. Where are your taxes go that you're paying for? And to me, I think it's been something very positive, and because it's coming to light some of the serious issues that we're having in our community.
Do you think that by doing that, people are able to understand the importance of this agency that is a part of the county?
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think for folks, they don't mind paying taxes if they understand what they're paying it for and what it's going to. I think that's one reason why public safety is such a big thing. It's 3/4 of our budget, because people are like, yeah, I want to be protected. I want to be safe. That's pretty much number one priority of folks when they're paying their taxes. They want to feel that. Secondly, for Children's Services, is trying to understand, well, what is exactly happening. And as I mentioned earlier, this heroin epidemic has really taken a toll in our community. And we're seeing that within the numbers of children that are going into our custody within Job and Family Services. We're over 2,200 children just in February that are in custody underneath Job and Family Services. And it's over 1,000, I think 1,300 of those are actually in foster care homes that are in that are in our system.
Mm-hmm.
That's the highest ever in the last 20 years. And it's just staggering numbers that we're seeing.
Unfortunately, due to one epidemic.
Well, I think there's a couple other things that are happening here. I don't know all the other forces, but it's almost turning into this perfect storm with the heroin epidemic coming in. We're seeing a huge increase in the amount of children going into custody. I mean, when you're hearing stories about, parents ODing,
And the
and
children
children,
them,
well, yeah, or the children in
yeah.
the car with them, right? Or,
Correct.
at the restaurant with them, or, it's amazing when you hear these stories. You got to understand that when that happens, that child is now put into custody in children's services because their parents just OD'd. So they're not going to go back to their parents. And now, unless they have family nearby that they can go to, a grandparent or some other relative, close relative, that they might be able to be placed with, which could be good. If not, then they have to go into our foster care system. And that's why there's such a need for foster families to come forward to help out with these placements. This is the biggest need we've seen in 20 years. And hopefully it will change once we start to get a handle on the opiate crisis that we're in. But until then, we definitely need the help.
Are you seeing? Obviously, we're seeing that increase going into the system, but are we seeing an increase in what we call in that area the forever family? Are we seeing adoptions happening, or is it continuation of just a foster system?
So we are seeing, which is a positive.
Sure.
I think anybody look at the child that is in this situation wants them to be in a permanent, stable setting. If that's with their birth family, that's great, if that can work out. But if not, we need to make sure that those folks, that the children, are put as quickly as possible into that stable, permanent environment. And so that's where the adoption process comes in. Sometimes it takes a long time. Too long.
Too long.
And it's something that...
Unfortunately, know families who have waited at times what seems like an eternity.
Yes.
But it is...
Years. It's a year's process. And to me, it's something that I know we'd like to fix, but we have to do it balancing the rights of the birth family and what they're trying to do to get reconciled with their children. But at the same time, the children need a place that's stable and permanent. I mean, we see the studies. Children that are raised in a home that has a stable environment are much better success of achieving, high school graduations and being able to go to college or get a job. Those that aren't, it's much more difficult.
Sure.
So we need to make sure that we have an environment that they can go into and be successful.
When it comes to adoptions, is it more on the state level or more on the county level, or is it an equal opportunity to help one another out to try to make the process go a little more smoothly or to expedite?
So county is an arm of state government. So whatever we do, we can only do because the state legislature has given us the authority to do it. So it's mostly at the state level that really dictates to us those times of how long things take for foster care, for adoptions. So we're really based on how the state handles things, which then also flows from the federal government. But it's more up in Columbus than it is locally.
You've touched on it a bit, and we didn't have it exactly on our outline, but it does need to come into play, the heroin and the opiate epidemic and crisis that we're experiencing. How is the county handling this? Obviously, we do have the heroin task force.
Correct.
That's already in place, but are there other means that are going to happen within 2017 that will help alleviate, maybe not eliminate, but at least alleviate till we find an end result to this epidemic?
So there's a few things going on. So we do have the heroin task force that's being led by Commissioner Driehaus. She's taken that over. So they've gotten into monthly meetings, which I think is a positive thing, of rallying the folks around this, bringing to the table not only those in government and public safety, but also the hospitals. And also I've suggested to bring actual folks who've suffered from the heroin crisis, who are either a user or been through, the rehab, so we can get their user stories that say, how can we make this better, quicker, more helpful for them. So those are things that I think are positive, that are happening, of trying to bring all those folks together to come up with, to me it's almost like looking at a process map of, here's you and how I want to get here. Well, here's the different avenues that I need to go through in order to accomplish that. I think if we get that roadmaps out there for folks, it's going to make it much easier for them to find their way out of addiction and back into a normal way of life. But it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. The second aspect of this is the quick response teams that you've been hearing about. There's one in Coleraine that's been very successful. Norwood's setting one up. And this is just key, because you are right there when someone overdoses. You're right there getting that individual basically signed up to get treatment, to get going, so that when they get back, they're not going to be, floundering and really reusing again,
Right.
but rather trying to get them into the resources to get to treatment so they can get their lives back. So those teams have been very successful on these small bases. We need to try to duplicate that across the county.
Once we gain the citizen back, we reel them in, we're able to help in the addiction process to eliminate that and alleviate them from that. Are there going to be means eventually to get them back into society? Because obviously it's not going to be an easy process. And then there's always the red tape of, well, they are considered a drug user, and there's probably some records behind them that has gotten them to where they are. Are we looking to actually help them acclimate back into society to be a wonderful member of the community again?
I think that's the whole process in that process map of how you're going to get the individual off using the substance, going back into their typical work life to become a productive citizen, and that's, in their community and helping out. From a standpoint legally, I don't know all the changes that would have to happen down the road, but I think we at least have to start thinking about that in order to figure out how this person can be fully reunited within our community. And it's not going to be a short process.
No.
I mean, this is something that can take months to years in order to get someone fully back in. And that's the scourge of the drug. I mean, the drug just trips the wires, the brain chemistry that just really makes you just not you. And it's hard to function normally in that way. And so being able to reverse that process and get that individual back in as a productive member of society is something that takes a while.
As we've spoken here before, on many accounts, people have stated one hit at the potency that these drugs have become, you're in. There's no out at that
Right.
point. And that's really frightening.
It is. And that's why another component that's very important that our task force is tackling is the public education aspect of it, and really going after our children. I mean, I remember growing up and hearing about don't smoke,
I was gonna say
Mothers
that-
Against Drunk Driving. I mean, we
Correct.
had all these, kind of societal problems that we were taught about, and I think we need to do that same thing with heroin. And we have it with texting and driving, the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, two very important things that we'll have to, get out there to educate our children not to do. Because you're right, just one. It only takes one, and you could be, messed up for a very long time.
I mean, it's not the old drugs of old, where it was just the casual, as they called it, that you still didn't do it. You
Right.
shouldn't do it. But I mean, it wasn't to the death of an individual that could be of the first hit.
Right.
It's not just an addiction of the first hit. You could die the first time.
Absolutely.
out.
I was just going to say that with the drugs that we're seeing,
Correct.
and especially the chemical makeups of it as they are coming onto the street, the ones we saw last summer with the elephant killer type drug on it,
Correct.
right? That type of stuff can kill you. And for us to be able to get that education out there, to me, is just as important. And being able to say to the children, don't even try. Don't even think about it. Because the minute you do, your life is really, really ruined.
Unfortunately, have to go on to the other side of this and put the devil horns on, as I normally do, to play the advocate here. Do you feel that it's almost interfering into a parent's life, saying, well, why are you teaching my child that? I should have the right to do that.
Well, I think it's all about public information in general, right? And being able, it's going to come down to free will, regardless. I mean, I can tell my children every day, you need to do this, and if they don't, that's, they'll have to suffer the consequences on it. So you can only do so much in order to get out but if they don't have the information, and if they don't understand,
Correct.
it only takes one time, then to me, I think we're not doing our job as a society and as parents to be able to protect our children.
Scary thought, and scary
is.
things that are hitting us. Unfortunately, one last piece of information to hit is obviously the levies that are affecting us here in 2017.
Yep.
We have three that are kind of big. That we've talked about a little bit of them, but let's go through. So, as we said earlier, as long as you understand what, as you said, as long as people know what you're paying for,
Right.
There's no question or hurt to that. First being the health and hospital levy that was in there for indigent care.
Yes.
That is a continuation. that's going on
Correct. Right now, all three levies are up in November.
in November.
So we're going through a process right now with our tax levy review committee as well as our administration to look at each of the different levies to find out what programs that are currently funded by them, how are they performing, to make sure they're doing what we expect them to do.
Sure.
Because again, as people are paying taxes, they want to make sure, hey, are we actually, this money, going after something that's successful,
Right.
that's helpful. So that review is going on for each of these levies, and then we'll come back and look at potentially some other programs that might be interested in being in those levies. Currently, the indigent care levy, which is the health and hospital one, there's at least, I can see over $10 million worth of new programs that folks want to put into that levy. If they decide to go forward with that, then that would be a rate increase on your property taxes going forward for next year. But again, it just depends on what recommendations we get back, and then how the Board of County Commissioners vote of what to put on the ballot in November. But all three of these, the indigent care levy, which is your health and hospital levy, your mental health levy, as well as the senior services levy. So all three of those will be on the ballot in November.
If you were to look at these right now, would you say that there was a great success rate on these at this point, or is it too early to tell?
Well,
In regards to what
right.
could happen.
So I think, to me, what we've been putting in, is what we need to.
Correct.
The question is, are there other means that might be more cost effective?
Mm-hmm.
So that's got a cost benefit analysis of going through, hey, if we give money to your program, are we going to get more for our bang for our buck than if we give it to this organization? Or do we split it and try to get even more? It's that type of analysis that's occurring right now of going into. To me, we, as I was on the county commission for the last 6 years, have tried to keep our property taxes flat. And we have. We've been keeping everything at renewals, so nobody has seen an increase in their county property taxes for the last 6 years. So from that standpoint, given the economy, given where we're at, I'd like to keep them as flat as possible. We'll see how this comes out, whether or not the majority believes that come November, but that's what this process is all about.
Sure.
So, for folks at home, I got some numbers here for, $100,000 value of a house. The health and hospital levy costs about $51 a year annually. And then for the mental health levy, it's about $49 a year. And then for the senior services levy, it's about $29 a year. So it doesn't seem like a lot of money.
No.
But when folks are on fixed incomes,
Sure.
with our seniors and folks, single families, people, working 2 jobs, every dollar counts in their budget. So, you have to weigh that in regards to what we want to put on the ballot in November. But again, we're going to go through that process over the next, 7. We'll vote probably in August to put these on. So so over the next 5 months before we finally make a decision on what amounts to put on.
It's again things that people need to look at, and as you said, if you are in a fixed income, as we talked earlier in regards, it's not easy. And the way that the economy has been, we don't know where it's going to put people that are on these now.
Correct.
So, scary times at points, but we don't want to end on a scary note, but at the same time, positive reinforcement gives positive enlightenment for the county. So
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, there's a point of what services we need to provide per state, per federal regulations. To me, it's always, I feel government should be focused on those basic services. You can't be all things to all people. We can't go out there and try to create programs for every single thing. There's just not enough money in the world to do that.
Right.
And even if you do, you're going to be creating program after program after program because you're never going to be able to satisfy everybody.
Right.
So what you have to do is look at, in the main, the basic services that counties should be providing and make sure we're doing those adequately and efficiently and effectively for the taxpayers. And I think we have. I think we've shown that within our budgeting and how we've come through the last 6 years and through this great recession and being able to keep running the county government and making sure that we're providing for those services that taxpayers expect.
And that's why you are elected to the position you are.
Exactly. We got to make those decisions.
Well, we're thankful that you're doing that, and I want to thank you, as always, to giving us the insight of what's going on in the county and having time to sit with us here on County Fair.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you for joining us as well. You have been enjoying I hope. County Fair, our look at the Hamilton County with those in the know here on Waycross Community Media. I'm Jason Grisgork, Waycross Community Media's Government Access Coordinator, giving you the opportunity to talk with those in the know here on County Fair. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.